This is a SnapEd New York video presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Wendy Beckman and I'm a registered dietitian with the New York State Office for the Aging and SnapEd New York. Thanks for joining me today on What's Cooking with NYSOFA. Today I'm going to be making chicken and rice. We'll be posting the link to the recipe below, and the recipe can also be found on the SnapEd New York website at www.snapedny.org. Now before we get into the recipe, let's look at my plate. This recipe covers the protein and grain section of my plate. My plate is a graphic representation of what our plate should look like every time we sit down to eat. The chicken in this recipe provides protein. Getting enough protein in our diets becomes more important as we age because our bodies don't use protein as efficiently as it did when we were younger. Making sure that you get enough high-quality protein in your diet can help to keep your muscles strong, and it can help to keep your immune system strong. The rice in this recipe covers the grains section of my plate. You want to make half of your grains whole grains every day. This recipe calls for brown rice, which is a whole grain. Whole grains contain more fiber, vitamins, and minerals than their white counterparts. So making half of your grains whole grains every day can make sure that you get enough of those important nutrients. Remember that everything you eat and drink over time matters. You want to find your healthy eating style and maintain it for a lifetime. The right mix can help you be healthier now and in the future. So let's start making this chicken and rice. Remember to wash your hands with soap for at least 20 seconds or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer before you start cooking. This recipe makes 6 servings, and you could easily cut the recipe in half to make only 3 servings. And that's what I've done here. I will tell you what the recipe calls for to make 6 servings, but you'll only see half of the ingredients here. Each serving is 1 cup with 300 calories per serving. Each serving has 38 grams of protein and 5 grams of fiber. This recipe is also low in fat and sodium. So let's look at the ingredients here. This recipe calls for a teaspoon of oil, and I have canola oil here. The recipe also calls for 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breasts, and I've cut it into strips. I have about 1 pound here. Next, you need a medium onion chopped, 2 green bell peppers chopped, 2 jalapeno peppers chopped. You can use jarred jalapeno peppers if you want to. These ones are fresh. Here's 3 cloves of garlic minced or chopped, or you can use the jarred garlic if you want to. The recipe also calls for 2 cups of chicken broth. It also calls for 29 ounces of canned diced tomatoes. This is about a half a cup of mixed vegetables, and you can use more if you want to. And these are frozen vegetables. You can use canned as well. Here I have a teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, and this is about 3/4 cups of brown rice. Now I've cooked this rice ahead of time in the interest of efficiency, but you can cook the rice in the process of making the recipe also. Now I've used converted rice for this recipe, and that means that the rice was pre-cooked in the factory and dried again before it was packaged for sale. It only takes about 10 minutes to cook converted rice. You can use non-converted rice, and if you do, it will take closer to about 30 minutes to cook, so just keep that in mind. The advantage of using the non-converted rice is that it's cheaper than the converted rice. Yes, it does take more time to prepare, but if you can make the rice ahead of time, say on the weekend, that could save you some time during the week. Now the first step is to cook the chicken in the frying pan. So first I'm going to add the oil to the pan, and my pan is nice and hot, so it'll be ready to put the chicken in there, and then next we're going to start adding the chicken. Let me get my fork here, and here are the chicken strips. This is the chicken all cut into strips. And I was just able to find some boneless, skinless chicken in my grocery store, and I just cut that up. Now, you don't have to use raw chicken like this. I think you could use already cooked chicken. So if you had some chicken that was left over. One of the things that I like to get in the store is a whole chicken, like a whole roasting chicken, and make that for dinner. But invariably, I don't eat the whole thing all in one sitting. So a lot of times what happens is I will have some cooked chicken that's left over. And then sometimes I make chicken salad out of it, but this recipe would be a great way to use some of that chicken that you've already have cooked. So it's a great way to cut down on waste, and it's a great way to use up that chicken. That would make this recipe even faster, right? If you pre-cook the rice and you have already cooked chicken, boy, you're going to be able to make this really pretty quickly. Now you want to cook the chicken until the juices of the chicken run clear. You can also use a thermometer to check the internal temperature of the chicken. With the thin strips of chicken, it can be a little challenging to get an accurate temperature, but it's not impossible. So the internal temperature of the chicken should reach about 165 degrees Fahrenheit. If you have a digital thermometer like this one, it usually doesn't have to be calibrated. Now, if you have an analog thermometer like this one that has a dial on the front, it does have to be calibrated from time to time, or the temperature readings that you get won't be accurate. Now, there are videos online that can teach you how to calibrate your analog thermometer. You can use water with ice in it to calibrate the thermometer to 32 degrees. You just have to adjust the nut on the back of the thermometer. It's usually right at the top here. Once the chicken's been cooking on one side for a few minutes, you can flip the chicken over. So let's do that right now. You can see that it's starting to cook. It's got a little ways to go. Luckily, when it's cut nice and thinly like this, it's going to cook pretty quickly. But like I said, you can tell when it's done, the chicken will be a little bit firmer and the juices will run clear. The surefire way to make sure that your chicken is up to temperature is to use a thermometer. Now, if you look at this thermometer, you probably cannot see it on camera, but there's a little dimple at the end of this thermometer. And that tells me how far I need to put the thermometer into whatever I'm taking the temperature of to get an accurate reading. So this is an older one, and I have to put the thermometer into the food at least this far. If you only put the little end in, it's not going to be an accurate reading. So that's one of the things that you need to look at on your thermometer. And then this is a digital thermometer. It has a button on the back, and then there's a display on the front. And you can see, you probably can't see it on camera, but at the bottom of this thermometer, it's actually a little bit thinner. And so this is how much you have to put of this thermometer into the food to get an accurate reading. So that's just another thing to keep in mind about your thermometers. And like I said, the digital thermometers don't have to be calibrated, but the analog thermometers do have to be calibrated. Now, I think you could also add some seasoning to this chicken as you're cooking it. You could add some garlic powder or some salt and pepper, whatever you like. Whatever you think is going to make your chicken taste good. So that's getting a little warmer there. That's good. I'll flip these over a couple more times. So yeah, you want to make sure that your pan is nice and hot. And then you can get the thin strips cooking pretty quickly. Now, once the chicken is cooked all the way through, you're going to remove it from the pan and set it aside. So I'm actually going to get a plate back here. So I'm going to put the chicken on here for now, because I'm going to use this same pan to cook the rice and the vegetables. So put this aside. All right, good. Get that out of the way. Okay. So next you have to cook the rice. And now I've already cooked my rice that's over here. I just wanted to get that out of the way because it takes a little while for it to cook. I'm going to add the vegetables to the pan and heat them through. I'm going to do that first. So first I'm going to add the onion. And then next I'm going to add the green bell pepper. This is the jalapeno peppers. And last I'm going to add the garlic, which is right here. And that smells really good cooking in there. That smells delicious. So I'm doing this a little bit different order than they have it in the recipe that's written. but that's because I already pre-cooked my rice. Usually in this step, you put the rice in the pan and you cook it with the chicken broth. And I'm going to saute this just for a minute, and then I'm going to add some of the other ingredients. So what you want to do is make sure that these onions and peppers start to get a little bit cooked, because you don't want them crispy in your dish. You want them to soften up a little bit. So that's going to take just a minute. So the jalapeno peppers that are in this recipe, you can add more or less. I don't particularly like things that are very, very spicy, so I just added 1 jalapeno pepper, but you can add more if you really, really like them. So what I'll do is I'm going to cut this jalapeno pepper open and show you the inside of it. So I'm going to cut the top off, and then I'm going to cut it just down the middle. Make sure I keep my fingers out of the way. There we go. And inside are all of these seeds, and then the little sort of pith in the middle of it. One of the ways that you can sort of cut down on the amount of heat that the pepper has is to remove the seeds and to remove sort of this pithy part here. So that's one of the things that I did with my jalapeno peppers, is I cut all of this stuff in the middle out. And I cleaned it out before I chopped the pepper up. So it's pretty easy to get all of this stuff out of the middle here, like that. And then I just sliced it into small pieces. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Again, if you like it more spicy, leave all of that stuff in there, chop it up, and then just put it into your dish. So let's stir this around and see how this is going. So that could probably use a little bit more time, but that's all right, because we're going to cook the rest of this stuff in here and it'll heat up. So next I'm going to add the tomatoes. This is a can of tomatoes. Probably use fresh if you wanted to. Canned tomatoes are very convenient. Look for low sodium varieties of canned tomatoes in your store. Now I'm going to add the frozen mixed vegetables. And again, you can add any kind of mixed vegetables that you like. This is just corn and peas and green beans and carrots. And that's frozen. You could use canned if you wanted to. So let's mix all of that together. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the spices. So first, let's put in the cumin. The cumin's going to add a little bit more heat on top of those jalapeno peppers, and then some chili powder. So this will be a little bit spicy. And again, one of the advantages of cooking at home is that you know how much spices or seasoning you put into your food. If you don't like that much of it, then you can put in less or leave it out altogether. If you don't like the cumin, you don't have to put it in there. You can use a different kind of seasoning that you do like. All right, so that's looking pretty good. So what you're going to do is you heat the mixture through, and then after that you add the rice. Now, I don't have to use this chicken broth because that's what I use to cook the rice, and that's how it's done in the recipe as it's written. So I'm going to just set this aside for right now. And now I'm going to add this rice into the pan. All right. All right, now you can see that sort of starting to come together here. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And I can smell the cumin in there and the jalapeno peppers, so that's going to be a nice spicy dish. Now I think you could use all kinds of vegetables in this recipe. You could use broccoli or carrots. I think this recipe is a great way to use leftover vegetables. Maybe you have some leftover green beans from dinner the night before. You could use those vegetables in this recipe to cut down on food waste. You can really use your imagination and add whatever you like. And you know me, I'm always interested in adding more vegetables to dishes like this. You can usually add more vegetables than what's called for in the recipe without changing the recipe all that much. It's an easy way to get closer to making half of your plate fruits and vegetables. And this looks really pretty good. Now that all of these things are mixed together, I'll show you what it looks like in just a minute. I'm going to give it just another minute to heat up. I think you could use other kinds of grains in the recipe. Instead of brown rice, you could use something like quinoa or barley, just for something different. I know that sometimes I get tired of rice all the time. But once the rice is cooked, with all of the vegetables in it, you serve the chicken over the rice. So let me get some on a plate for you to see. That looks really beautiful and it smells amazing. I love the onions and peppers together. I think that that's always delicious. One of my favorite things. There's that. Let me get some chicken over here. Just put a couple of pieces of chicken over this. There we go. And there you have your chicken with rice dish. That looks great. It smells delicious. This is a nice one-pan dinner. You have your protein, your whole grains, and your vegetables all in one dish. That saves time on cleanup. I hope this recipe gave you some more ideas on how to incorporate more protein and whole grains into your diet. Don't forget to join me next month when I'll share more tips on how to save time, save money, and eat healthy. In April, I'll be making lentil burgers. This recipe is a nice vegetarian twist on an old favorite. Join us on Friday, April 25th at 12:30 p.m. right here on the New York State Office for the Aging Facebook page and the New York State Office for the Aging YouTube channel. If you watch on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you won't miss out on any of the great recipes that we share. This presentation was funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us today. We know the healthy choice isn't always the easiest choice, but small changes can make a big difference. Start today by getting involved with SNAP Ed New York. This program is free for those who qualify or receive SNAP benefits. We want to help you save time, save money, and eat healthy. Learn how SNAP Ed can make a difference in your life. For more information and to find your local program, visit snapedny.org. This material was funded by USDA's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SNAP. This institution is an equal opportunity provider.
Hi, I'm registered dietitian Wendy Beckman, host of What's Cooking with NYSOFA. Over the past 2 years, I've had the opportunity to share healthy, nutritious recipes with you on the show. I work for the New York State Office for the Aging, and thanks to a partnership with SNAP Ed New York, our nutrition team reaches hundreds of thousands of older New Yorkers each year. So why a cooking program? 60% of health costs and related issues have nothing to do with health, but instead have to do with individual behaviors like our food choices and physical activity. The recipes we feature are nutritionally appropriate for older adults, meeting critical nutrition requirements for healthy aging. What I bet you don't know is that this show is only part of a larger effort. To help me explain what our nutrition team at the New York State Office for the Aging does and what a registered dietitian is, here is registered dietitian Lisbeth Irish.
A registered dietitian is a professional who has training and education in food and nutrition. To become an RD, you must complete certain requirements, including a minimum of a bachelor's degree from an institution that's accredited by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. You must also pass a national examination and meet continuing education requirements. What does that mean? As RDs, we are qualified to offer accurate advice about nutrition, and we can help answer your questions about how diet can affect your health. At NYSOFA, the registered dietitians handle many tasks. This includes hosting 2 online programs aimed at helping older New Yorkers make better nutrition choices. These programs are What's Cooking with NYSOFA, which is our monthly cooking demonstration, and a Facebook Live program that I host called Ask the Experts, Nutrition Edition. In the months ahead, be on your lookout for it. We'll be sharing your questions and our experts' answers about nutrition and health. New episodes of Ask the Experts Nutrition Edition debut the second Friday of each month on Facebook and YouTube.
As Lisbeth explained, registered dietitians at NYSOFA handle many tasks, including food safety at congregate meal sites, educational materials, and outreach. In the meantime, please don't miss an episode of either show produced by our team, What's Cooking with NYSOFA and Ask the Experts Nutrition Edition. Every episode is uploaded to YouTube, and you'll find the archive shows there.
Do you have a question about foods? Or do you have a particular health issue that you'd like to improve by changing your diet? Tune in to Ask the Experts Nutrition Edition every second Friday at 1 p.m. We'd love to hear from you.
Remember, registered dietitians are the experts in nutrition. Visit for more sound advice about eating healthy on a budget.